All right, at 7 o'clock, I'd like to call a meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, no need for roll call. Everybody's present. Old business, approval of minutes. The regular meeting minutes of January 16, 2025 were provided for review. I need a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 16, 2025 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednicka.
Yes.
Motion passed. Audience participation. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Come on up, sir, and please state your name and address.
Jeff Root. I live at 292 West Gilman Road.
Okay.
And what I want to talk about is accessory buildings. May of 24, I come into the city and talk about building a 2-car garage. And then I'm told I had a price for metal, I'm told you can do metal roof, but you cannot do metal siding. You have to do basically, something matches your house. Lap siding, sheet siding, vinyl. That's what I have on my house. So I, made adjustments. I had the price from the guy who builds metal barns locally, and he even called in to make sure I was clear on that. But he said they were very clear. There will be no metal siding in Lansing. So then, 6 months later, whatever, I see these flags marked out on a joint adjacent property, big building. And I'm thinking there's no way, because what I ended up doing was making an adjustment. I went from a 2-car to a 1-car. I did 3-foot frost footings, 8-inch floor, 42 inches of concrete. I, framed it, stick framed it, 16-inch centers like you would a house. Cost. Sheet siding, $70 a sheet. You also then have to paint it. Metal would be zero maintenance. But anyway, the property next to me, I came in and talked to the inspector. I said, just keep it fair. Don't let him do metal. You didn't let me. And I said, and could you please, if they start this, put up some silt fence because mine's a downhill slope to my backyard. So the bottom line is, this building goes up, but all I see over there is trucks that say metal buildings, pole barns. So anyway, the bottom line is they built a metal building. They did a board and batten that was approved through the city, but it's a metal siding. There's no difference but the aesthetics, And I just feel like, the cost, I'm up $5,000-$6,000 easily in the cost and downsize my building. And then right next to me, same circumstances. He's got vinyl on his house, blah, blah, blah. It's all the same except one got approved, one didn't. I think we should address the wording in the code, or how does one guy got to comply with the code that costs thousands more, plus years of maintenance. And one guy gets to do his maintenance-free building. If you look at co-op, and what I really feel, they just built a new co-op. It's got flat, basically barn siding, but it's got the soffit. A 1-foot soffit is what changes the look. If you look at all the buildings in the industrial park, if they're squared off with no soffit, it looks like a metal building. And I just felt like that's what the city's trying to stay away from. Metal-looking barn, And Leavenworth, same thing. I've talked to the same guy that builds these all over the county and in the city of Leavenworth, not in Lansing, because you can't do metal siding. So the bottom line is, I really feel like you should either be able to do the metal siding that's maintenance-free, it lasts like 40 years, or the code should mean code, and then you build to code. But once you switch to stick building, then your footings, they got to do 5 inches, a 2x6 on their floor, tapered to 4 inches of concrete. That's it. And I'm 42 inches of concrete. Then thousands in framing. If you ever seen a pole barn, they're just 4x4s, peered down, and then light framing and metal. That's it. So we both did metal roofs. He got to do metal siding. I didn't. I just feel like, I don't know where I slipped through the crack or how one does, one doesn't. So that's my concern. I see you got a big agenda tonight, but Just don't seem fair.
All right. I appreciate it. Josh, can you tell us what ordinance that is or what code that we're talking about? So we can put it on a work session or whatever. I mean,
Yeah, I'd love to come back and talk about it. You make time.
So the code in question is in the fourth article of our UDO. It's the accessory buildings structure, and it says an accessory building must be constructed with materials, architectural details and style, and roof forms that are compatible with the principal structure.
so that's kind of nebulous, right?
It
Compatible meaning,
Correct. Compatible meaning that if it matches the neighborhood, the type of building, the area of the neighborhood, and so the neighbor in question, it was presented the options and presented the board and batten siding, as Mr. Root said. That is architecturally similar. I have photos from my building inspector that shows homes in the vicinity with similar board and batten siding. So that was approved.
It's really not.
So if it's based on a neighborhood, why wasn't he allowed to do the same thing?
The proposal in question from Mr. Root was not compatible.
The bottom line is I was told no metal. No metal, you know. And I know they're thinking barn metal, so it don't look like a barn.
What I'm hearing from the kind of legal side of the house is we're having an omission here. We're Mr. Root, which I don't have any argument with, he wants to argue I was told no metal. What I'm hearing Josh say is it's a metal that looks like this house structure. So you can have a pressed metal that looks like your house, or is Mr. Root talking about straight seamed metal coming straight down? I haven't heard Mr. Root describe what he told the city he intended to do. So if he says that his was going to look just like his house, not just how it was built, but the actual imprint stamping of the sheet metal or the metal that he's proposing, I haven't heard that yet. All I keep hearing is I was told no metal, but the other one is metal but was approved. But what I hear Josh saying is that it was of a like nature that was metal, but was akin to what the house looks like.
His house looks
So
like.
if there's a difference, I think we need to hear that before we got to get into a deeper discussion, if there is going to be one.
Well, just realize he's got vinyl, looks like 4-inch lap siding. I got vinyl, looks like 4-inch lap siding. I did sheet siding on this, which is typically on, homes around the area. Rock Creek and True and them two is like sheet siding on the three sides and typically lap type siding on the front to dress it up because it's more expensive. And basically the approved materials I was told was lap siding, sheet siding, or vinyl. We both did the OSB, so it's double wall construction. But the bottom line is you could have hung that on there. Look at Co-op. It's a beautiful building. But it's got the soffit. I really feel like that's what separates it from just a squared off metal building. In the industrial park's perfect example. Feel free to come by the intersection of Rock Creek and Gilman, Willow, and look at both buildings are right there. The one, it looks nice. Board and batten's nice. But had I had to, the option to spend a little more maybe on some metal siding, it's exactly the same. If you will Google it, which I did today, it's the same, just aesthetically nicer than flat, than flat metal. But realize I've got caulking, painting, thousands. I've got more lumber, thousands. Concrete, 2 pours, thousands. The final inspection, that building got done today, and it's a 40-foot building by 30. No electrical in it. Got its final approval. So apparently nobody's going to look at the electric. I can see if you did it yourself, you don't have to be approved. But I would think somebody should look at it once. But just seems like he got the easy way out and the cheap way, and that's really what I presented too. Was this guy does metal buildings? He could do the same metal, but he was told no metal and said they were very clear to him too, in case I didn't understand them correctly. And I feel like that's the difference. And the way it reads in the codes is basically something, and the way I was told is something compatible, right, with your house. You can look at both buildings. There's no, go look, please look. But if I would have hung metal on there, it would have been the same color. The buildings are almost perfectly the exact same colors. There was no way you could tell the difference. The OSB on there would have held them solid. You would never paint for, their 40-year lifetime on that. It's the way to go. It's what everybody does on a large building. That's why they're industrial park. You go to like a pole barn type structure, but you don't hang siding on it. You got to paint. Then you're up a ladder. Then you're doing this maintenance every couple of years. That's my argument, and I'm serious. On a small one-car garage, 20 by 26, I'll bet I'm in 6,000-7,000 very easily. I could prove more than if I could have just done the simple. I could have done my two-car garage simpler. I would make it look right. I keep my stuff looking right.
We could bring it up to the planning commission if adding a sentence that says board and batten of a comparable color is reasonable. We can throw that out to the planning commission just to clarify that, so
Yeah.
this wouldn't
I
happen
mean, I
again.
think clarity in there a little better would help.
Well, and just realize the concrete and the material that I had to go through. It's just,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's at my expense this time. But I really feel like we should level the playing field. Code should be code.
Yeah.
And then if you approach the city with something, they're saying, no, you can't do this, but here's an option. That's all. It's really what I'm trying to stress. I didn't get any options. I had to fight for my permit. Felt like I struggled through this whole thing. I had to take a day off to finally get my permit. And I just said, I don't want to be here today until I leave out of here with a garage permit. And they're like, once we give you a permit, then you're kind of on your own. And I'm like, well, you got codes. That's what keeps people in check.
Right.
So that's my point.
Sir, your address is 219 West Gilman?
292.
292.
Yes.
Okay.
If you're at the intersection turning into Rock Creek off Gilman, you can look right there, see both buildings. They both look beautiful.
Okay.
Problem is, I had to spend thousands more than I should have, and I'm going to be doing painting and maintenance to my building while my neighbor's enjoying maintenance-free building. His concrete floor is about what you should have to do. Mine was a way overkill, but I had two options. Once you switch to lumber, you can do a 15 by 16 that tapers to a 4-inch floor. You can do 3-foot frost footings, which I asked, do you have a detail on this footings? No, we ain't got a picture of it. So the guy I worked with on the concrete, local guy, and all my business was local. All of this metal building that came in, not $1 was spent on a local company. But the bottom line is he said he wasn't comfortable with that without seeing, he didn't want to get rejected on inspection right before he pours. So we just dug 3-foot frost footings, 2x8 like you would on a house. Any house at your garage floor, it's what you've got. I've done this a long time. It's what I've done my whole life is footings and construction. Same with the silt fence. I had to call, they broke dirt on this thing the day before that giant storm. I had to call the number on the truck, doing the excavating, said, could you please get some silt fence up to protect my yard? And I said, that should have went up prior to excavating. That's, industry standards. So I'm no great, speaker, as you can tell, but it's irritating to have to spend thousands, and then there's just simple basic things, The inspector for the city told me he stood on that driveway, told that guy, why should you get to do metal when he didn't? But it got approved one way or another. Not to mention, you should have seen very simply right there that it was going to drain into my yard. You do this and you're not going to get grass to grow for months. Probably 6 months now, back at the time. But just a few simple things seemed like could have worked my direction that I struggled with.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, I appreciate it.
All right.
When did
And what-
you build your structure?
Excuse me?
When was it built? What year?
Oh, I got my permit in May. It was completed, say, in July. I'm out there sweating, caulking, and painting.
Last year.
Yeah, 24.
Okay, good enough.
And December of 24 is when this other building got approved. And
Okay.
boom, it goes up,
Thank
nothing
you.
flat. All right.
I think the council's aware of this, and Mr. Root may be aware of this as well, is that if he disagreed with anything that the city had told him, staff or whatnot, there is a process to appeal that. I mean, if he wanted to have it looked at by another body, he could have done so. I mean, maybe he just needed the time frame, maybe he needed to get it built, but there is a process by which he could have that reviewed if he would like to, if he disagreed with any decision staff may have made. So there isn't just a, staff said this, it's over with. There's a way to look at that if he chose to do so.
We had two people, me and this other contractor, call and ask. And they were very clear on the metal. I didn't argue it. I went with city code. I know how to build a house. I've built 4 in Lansing. I comply with all the rules. Just like my electrical, I had them go ahead. And apparently that was on a voluntary basis, but I wanted it inspected. I want it right. So just, it's not as simple as I didn't realize you was going to be able to get away with metal if you just kept prying. I felt like I was already invading their time and, putting them out to deal with me anyway. So
I think people know, Mr. Root, I'm not trying to impugn your ability to build. I know you build. so there's no question about your ability to do the work, know the work, and all that. But all I'm saying is that if you disagreed perhaps with staff or that you thought it was unreasonable, there was another avenue you could have pursued before you did invest that money. But that
I really didn't feel like there was. I mean,
Oh,
there's
I
a stone wall
understand.
cold. There will be no metal siding.
Okay.
in Lansing.
and that's fine. If you
I really did. Or I'd have been. I wished I'd have came here now if I'd known someone close. This was like the largest metal building I've seen in Lansing, to tell you the truth. And I didn't realize till that point that, wow, I kind of got the shaft. You know, I don't know how else you say it, but I've spent way more than I should have on a little bitty building that should have went up. What I originally wanted was a pole barn building, basically, but you dress it up to make it look like, you know, your house, which is really the 1 foot soffit. If you guys would take the time to look, that's, you know, the rule in Leavenworth is they want to see a picture of what you're going to build first, and that's really the difference. If you go, for everybody take the time to look on a squared off metal building with no soffit, no gutters, all of that, they look a little cheap and a little like some farm type, you know, some farm type building. And they said if I was zoned ag, you can do that, but if you're not, this is city. You're going to do some siding. You're going to do compatible with your house, and our houses are exactly the same. You know, so that's all. That's my point.
Okay.
Thank you for
We'll take a look at it. Thank you.
The only question I would have in this situation is the proximity of both of these permits, why two different residents got different
I think it's possible.
different information from our staff.
I think it's very possible, had the other one been first, if Mr. Root would have seen that and been specific in the question, can I put board and batten for a garage? The staff probably would have said yes. But I wasn't there for the discussion. It sounds like it was your contractor and not even you. But if the contractor said, can my client build a metal garage? I mean, the council's been pretty clear about that over the years. The answer on that would be no. But I guess if it was phrased as, can I do some type of board and batten that looks comparable to my siding?
Okay, but
Again, I
it does
can
not.
understand
It does
that.
not match that house. And board and batten is kind of a catchphrase. If you look it up, there's no difference. They come in a bundle of sheet. You know, if you go to a metal panel place like right in KCK, they'll sell you either. They come wrapped. It's just thin metal. The appearance, the aesthetics is different. That is it. It's still metal barn siding. So that's my whole point. And it's way affordable. And a person should be able to do that in Lansing. If one person should be able to do it, everybody should be able to do it. That's all I'm saying. And look at Co-op. It's got the flat siding like I wanted to do. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful building. It's got soffit.
It just sounds like we need to go to the code and clarify it better.
Yeah.
Not like we did with the fireworks and the building thing.
Yep.
You know,
Realize how
make
much
it more
cheaper
clear.
the concrete is. That's what
Yeah.
kills you these days.
All right. Thanks, Mr. All right. Presentations. Was there anybody else in the audience that wanted to address something that wasn't on the agenda? Okay. Item number 2 is Board of Zoning Appeals appointment. EDO requires the Board of Zoning Appeals to be available for the appeal process to administer the following matters: appeals of administrative decisions, variances, and any other exceptions for relief specifically referred to under the procedures and standards of these regulations. So Charles Chase Spears and Peter M. have agreed to fill the vacant seats on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Both terms will be from February 6, 2025 to February 5th, 2028. So I need a motion to appoint Charles Spears and Peter M. to fill the vacant seats on the Board of Zoning Appeals for terms ending February 5th, 2028.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Who are the two members that are leaving?
I think it's been vacant for,
The positions have been vacant. There's still one additional vacancy that needs to be filled. I think the last person to leave was Rich Hannon. So.
Okay, thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kovaleski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item number 3 is Port Authority appointment. Each city in Leavenworth County is allowed to appoint an appointee on the Leavenworth County Port Authority. For the previous 3 years, Councilman Clemens has served as Lansing's appointee to the board. The current term expires on 25 March 2025. Mr. Clemens has volunteered to serve another term on the LCPA board. Thanks, Dan. So I need a motion to approve Councilman Dan Clemens to the Leavenworth County Port Authority Board.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anybody have any reservations of Dan serving on that board? Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalewski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Congratulations, Dan. And thank you. Resolution B2, 2025, Riverbed Heights RHID. Ad Astra Development LLC applied for the Reinvestment Housing Incentive District to develop a 412-lot single-family home subdivision called Riverbend Heights. The request is for the city to approve a 20-year RHID that would result in $25 million of infrastructure investment to support the residential subdivision. There are currently 6 other parcels in Lansing with the RHID. The RHID program exists to spur growth and development, as well as make housing more attainable in the city. And I believe Josh is going to give us a little presentation or provide some information.
I'll provide a little bit of information, then I'm going to pass it off to the agent's representative tonight. So the RHID district, or the RHID, has been a hot topic, I know, amongst you guys, if you've checked your emails today or the past couple of days. So just as a reminder, and I think Joe is going to go over this as well, this is a first step. We are enabling this through this resolution. We would be enabling this through this resolution tonight. This resolution will then be sent to the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce will approve or disapprove, and then they will come back for another resolution after that. And in the midst of this, we will also have to approve plats. We will have to approve the rezonings. Those things will come. The rezonings and the plats will come, or the final plat will come to you guys to approve the rezoning and accept the public right-of-way dedications on the final plats. So this is not the end of the process. This is the beginning of the process for this project. So with that, I'm going to introduce Joe Oakes. He's got a presentation for us just to orient us to what this project is and what its future is going to potentially hold.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Again, my name is Joe Oakes. I'm from the Polsinelli Law Firm out of Kansas City. Here on behalf of Ad Astra, with me tonight is Chris Colson, the owner and principal, Ross Vogel, and Ben Gasper, engineer on the project. I thought Josh gave a very good intro, and your agenda tonight and staff report gave a little bit of background, just to give a little bit more before I dive into the project. We're proposing to develop a residential subdivision at the southwest corner of 131st Street and McIntyre Road. Our goal in this project is to bring much needed housing to the community and do so at attainable prices that prospective and existing residents can afford. In connection with that request, we are requesting the formation of a reinvestment housing incentive district. That request is for 20 years. It would help offset the massive infrastructure lift that I'll go into tonight, and in turn help drop down lot prices. So again, Josh took a lot of my housekeeping off the table right off the bat. This is step one in the process. This is an initial resolution that allows us to move forward. It does go to the Department of Commerce. There's actually 2 public meetings that would have to occur before any district would be created. Approval tonight does not bind this body in any way. It does not obligate this body in any way. Even after the process is completed, statutory, any specific rights or obligations would need to be negotiated, approved by this body via development agreement. And again, outside of the incentive process, there are many planning, zoning, entitlement, permitting procedures that have to occur before any shovels are ready to hit the dirt. Step one of many. Going very briefly into the development team, and again, I'll keep the intro here brief. Ad Astra, its owner and principal is Chris Colson. It's developed a number of residential projects across the state, most recent being the Wiswell Farms project in Spring Hill. That was actually Johnson County's very first RHID project and is under construction as we speak. Why are we here before you today? Simply put, it's because we're seeing a massive housing need across the country. We're seeing it across the region. We're feeling it close to home in this state, and you're feeling it here in Lansing. And you know, when I was combing through your housing study, you can see it right off the bat in the statistics that are there. 80% of your workforce lives outside of the community. Residential construction activity has dwindled. It's minuscule right now. And what that's causing is it's causing Lansing to fall behind its peers in Basehor. It's causing Lansing to fall behind its peers in Leavenworth and in other communities. And what that means is as we sit here today, Lansing has really become a commuter city, which becomes a significant concern, not only from a growth perspective, but from an economic perspective. Every member of the workforce that works here and lives in another community, those are folks that are buying homes, that are raising families, and that are spending money in entirely separate communities. The other part of the equation is that also puts tremendous strain on the existing residents of this city when the majority of jobs are being filled by non-residents that are paying less or very little in taxes to support the public services. And what this next slide shows is that to date, the city has been very proactive in trying to address that need. Just to point out a few examples up here on this slide, when developer met with the city over a year, I guess nearly a year ago, city and developer searched high and low to find suitable ground in the city to no avail. In August 2024, this body approved an RHID resolution for 6 separate parcels in city limits, notifying landowners in the process, notifying the public in the process. To date, neither one of these efforts has resulted in development, and is what caused the developer to search further south into the property you'll see here in a moment. And what this next slide shows is that property. It's 124 acres again, southwest corner of McIntyre Road and 131st Street. This property was conditionally annexed into the city back in November, and we're under contract to purchase the site. You'll also notice there's a little area, broader area outlined in yellow up there. That is where we propose the broader district. It includes part of the land that the landowner is retaining. Simply put, the reason it's included is because lot lines, boundaries, to a final degree haven't been established yet. We want to be over-inclusive now so we don't have to come back and get approval again from this body on eligibility. What do we see in this site? Simply put, we see a lot of development potential right in the path of development. I put a few bullets up here that help illustrate some of this. This site's been designated as a priority annexation and growth site in the city's comprehensive plan for over a decade. It sits in close proximity to KDOT's planned highway improvement plans and also the sewer interceptor project. Again, our vision for this site is the development of single-family homes at attainable prices that residents can afford. We plan to get there by working with a national home builder that has the ability to achieve incredible efficiency. That comes with streamlining design, optimizing the construction process, and minimizing build time to reduce construction costs. Again, we are still very, very early in this process, and what I'm sharing with you tonight is a conceptual plan. Before I came up here tonight, our engineer was also walking through and showing us an updated plan. I say that just to show you this is still a work in progress. This is still our vision. A lot of approvals that need to occur. But currently we're envisioning 412 single-family lots. You'll also note on the eastern, western, and northeastern parts of this property, there's green space screening to insulate us from some of our neighbors. Again, before I came up here tonight, Some of the updated plan has included additional screening along almost the entire perimeter of the property. To turn our vision into reality, we face a lot of challenges, significant challenges and barriers to development. Main one being lack of infrastructure connectivity and need. Second being the current inflationary market you guys are seeing and have seen over the last 5-10 years, affecting construction prices, material prices, and lately interest rates. Specifically to this project, that number, total infrastructure acquisition and related costs is estimated at $27 million and results in a project that's not financially feasible without incentives. So with that in mind, we've submitted an application for an RHID to help offset the infrastructure lift and to keep lot prices down at prices that residents can afford. Without the RHID, we lose our competitive advantage of affordability. And to justify the construction risk, we'd have to do one of two things. We'd have to raise lot prices, or we'd have to look at alternative funding mechanisms such as special assessments, which, as you all know, are ultimately passed down to the homeowner. So these next two slides, again, I will stay very brief and stand for questions. This goes through the RHID mechanics. If you'd like, I'm happy to run through those. Otherwise, okay, it looks like this body is somewhat familiar. And then the following slide just shows visually the process I described for you. This is just the statutory approval information process. This doesn't talk about permitting, planning, zoning, or development agreement. With that, thank you for your time. We'd ask for your support on this project. This last slide highlights some of the direct benefits coming from this project, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Go back to the previous slide.
Yep.
So tonight, the only thing we're voting on is to make it an RHID.
Not even, Councilman. This is eligibility. This is strictly saying this city has a need for housing. It's very similar to the resolution you passed in August. This goes to commerce. District creation, that doesn't occur till the very last step at the public hearing.
So we're not approving 412. We're not approving any of the sewer lines. We're not approving what a house looks like. We're just addressing RHID, what you're calling Resolution 1.
Correct. Strictly eligibility.
Thank you.
Anybody else got questions?
What's the process? How long from start to finish, if everything?
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold you to it. But
sure. Dependent a lot on state and getting back. If you're absolutely blazing through the process, I'd say 3 to 4 months. Typically, if that's being done at the same time as planning, zoning, platting, it can take much longer. I've seen it be as long as 6 months, as little as 4, I think, is the quickest I've seen. Ross has probably seen quicker than that.
Well, that's bad to see they increase the green space.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
That's a plus.
And like I shared, we look forward to continuing to refine the plan, getting feedback from you all. More green space than even this slide that I'm showing has been added since we've been putting together this presentation.
According to this chart, that's 25% of the property is
Correct.
green space. So, it seems to me like a pretty good chunk. And it's going to go up.
Okay, anybody else have anything on this? All right, thank you for your presentation.
Thanks, guys.
Anybody in the audience wanting to address anything to the council?
I don't see any green space on the north side.
Excuse me, you have to come up and say your name and address if you want to address the council, thanks.
My name's Patrick Melvin. I live on at 13438 McIntyre Road. I don't see any green space on the north side of that. I see an entrance directly across from my house.
Oh, you're on the north side, I got you.
McIntyre Road.
Yeah, north side is McIntyre Road, correct?
Right.
Yep.
This is something that could be addressed during, well, it looks like that might have been somewhat addressed already. I've not seen the plans that Joe has. But that could be something that could be addressed. As it stands, should this parcel be rezoned to an R2 district, 25% is, I believe, 13% more green space than the regulations require as it stands currently. So if they are increasing that, they are also increasing the amount that they are above the regulations of what we approve.
And it's in the UDO too, like each lot is required to have some type of tree or something like that on it.
They will have to submit a landscape plan. We will work with them on that, what that looks like, and how that is implemented. But yes, there is a landscape plan that will need to be required as a part of this package.
Basically, what we're doing today is giving the okay to go to Commerce, because if Commerce says no, there's no point doing all this other work.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll be the pessimist. If you're talking about green space and the size of the green space, it almost looks like almost all the green space is in that southwest corner of the property.
Where nobody lives.
What's that?
Where nobody
No, no,
lives.
no, no.
Well, I mean, but you don't know what the terrain looks like there either.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that could be non-buildable, or it could be in the floodplain.
Right.
I mean, it could be in plenty of places.
I'm Katie Burton. I also live on McIntyre, and I guess I'm here to learn a little bit from you guys. If your vision for the city is super high density homes in what is a very rural area, McIntyre is recently paved in the last 5 years, but 131st Street is still gravel. It's very, very rural. The whole area, the reason they're asking for such high help with infrastructure is because there is not a lot of infrastructure in that area. It'll completely change that whole area of town. So we haven't lived there that long, but when we moved, it's very much a rural place. We have animals, we have children, and we just are really here for the farm experience. And this is bringing the middle of city, very high density, to the area. I'm not opposed to neighbors. I don't know that I want 400 families moving in immediately where our roads are gravel and very small roads. I don't know how water, sewer, all that. I know they probably say they have a plan, but it's a drastic change. So I do just encourage you guys to drive down just K7, turn on McIntyre and head east and look at what's around. There's a lot of nice properties. Most are 5-10 acre properties. And this is very, very different. So I would like to know if this is the initiative that Lansing is really looking for, or if there's anything as a stopgap to find a middle ground, as maybe we do need some properties built, but is this really where we're going?
It would be a great world if the city owned all of the property around here, but we don't, right? So we don't really get to choose. I mean, a lot of people, like this person here, sold that property to a developer who wants to make money. This is their project. It was mentioned that we do a comprehensive plan, a long-term plan, and we do have development going out this far. Now, whether or not this condensed of a housing area, probably not in our plan, I'm not sure. But one of our number one priorities that we got from all our citizens is we need more housing. I mean, we just don't have any. It's
affordable housing.
Affordable housing, well, housing in general. I mean, I'll say affordable or unaffordable. I mean, we don't have very many vacant homes in the city.
I think it was Tim, when you told me the other day you looked at Zillow and there was a grand total.
Yeah, I looked online. There were 3 houses in a city of 11,000 for sale. I mean, there's no houses for sale. The other thing that's challenging too, I think everyone would love a 1 acre lot or something like that. But the bigger those lots are, the less affordable they are. And we've received so many complaints from residents. It's so challenging to live in Lansing because it's so expensive. Teachers can't live here. Cops can't live here. things like that. So I think that's part of the goal is, being able to have a community where people can work and actually live, because there's a lot of our workforce doesn't live here. So I think that's part of it.
And one thing that I'll add into that, in April of last year, I presented to you guys an amendment to our UDO that reduced the minimum lot size in the R1 and R2 districts. We've proposed R1 with 50-foot lot widths and R2 with 40. When Chris showed up at our office for the first time, he said, here's what we want to do. We want to do a planned unit development, which is a different type of development than what we're kind of doing here, and said, we want to do either 40 or 50-foot lots. And I said, well, our council is forward-thinking enough to look at the environment and the market as it stands today, and realize that maybe we need to readjust our lot size to enable more housing, more development. And so, to answer the question to a certain extent, I think, not to speak for you guys, but this is the type of development that you guys have said that we wanted. So
That was the purpose of doing that.
yep.
So,
We do get to
okay.
that.
Just think about if this is where you would want to live and where you'd want your family to live.
I'd live there.
Well,
With no space around you at all.
I'd live there, absolutely. I would. Yeah.
Subdivision. I live in a subdivision like that right now.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and if you go to Spring Hill, if you want to make the drive, you can see what they've done. And I know some of us have been there and we're impressed with what we saw. So, anyway.
okay. Anyone else?
Yep.
Hi, my name is Mike Kanega. My family's property abuts the south property line of the subdivision. And I know you guys aren't, that far along in this submittal process, but what would be the approximate distance from the back of their house to the property line? Runs east to west. Just
No idea. I mean, this is like a concept
I understand.
drawing. It's not like a
Right.
platted.
What would be the setbacks approximately?
The setbacks on the city side,
Yes.
the setbacks in an R1 district would be 30 feet.
30 feet from the back of their house or their patio?
That's the setback. So they can't put a house closer than 30 feet to the rear property line.
Okay. And the property line would be the fence that's there now, roughly?
Wait.
No,
I don't know the lay of the land.
Pardon me? Okay. And then my next question is, and I realize this is very early in the application process, there is a stream that runs from south to north, starts over on the Markson Road side. Where is that in here? Is that not relevant, or?
Thought it
There-
was on, it's on the west side, right?
Yeah, so I'm Ben Gasper with SMH Consultants, the engineer on the project. So the ravine would be on the west side, kind of there's the pond.
Yes.
So that would be follow all those back sides of those houses, and so we would not be getting down into that ravine.
I understand, okay.
And so we did also, along the south side, end up adding a green space buffer to allow for, make sure we're not on.
Yeah, if you're going to talk, you
Can
probably need
come
to
up
get to the mic, but
please?
No,
It's
I'm
all right.
sorry.
Ben Gasper, SMH Consultants. I will say the stream and the ravine is kind of, there's a pond there west of those cul-de-sac lots there, and it kind of winds its way down along the west green space there. And so that is why a large area of that green space is there is a large ravine stream area over there that we're leaving open. Some of the input from the city was having access to the west side, so we are looking at options at adding a crossing across that to be able to maybe get to the west in the future. And then I was saying as well, we did add some buffers all around, a green space buffer all around the whole property. So that does buffer people away, whether we need to use stormwater or trees or landscaping or whatever, just to make sure things are shielded and buffered away from neighbors.
And then, again, I know we're very early in the smell process. Would there be, on the west side of the subdivision, would there be a fence between the house and the stream or the, whatever you call it?
That I don't know, but potentially.
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Okay, there's no more discussion. I need a motion to approve Resolution B2, 2025, to create a RHID for the Riverbend Heights subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalowski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Motion passed. Executive session, economic development. Need a motion to go into executive session for the preliminary discussions of economic development activities, KSA 75-4319B4, for 15 minutes, beginning at 7:46, ending at 8:01. Yeah, 8:01.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalowski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
As soon as I saw it.
I'll make a motion to return to open session.
Second. Second.
Motion and a second to return to open session. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalowski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Motion passed. We are back in open session. There were no binding actions taken during the executive session, at least the first one. Item number 6 is an executive session. Consultation with the attorney. A motion to enter executive session for consultation with the attorney for the city, which would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship, KSA 75431 Bravo 2, for 5 minutes, beginning at 8:02, 8:03, right? And 8:08, ending 8:08.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalowski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens, Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Make a motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second to return to open session. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner,
Yes.
Mr. Kirby,
Yes.
Mr. Kowalowski,
Yes.
Mr. Garvey,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clemens,
Yes.
Mr. Brungard,
Yes.
Mr. Stednica.
Yes.
Motion passed. We've returned to open session. No binding action was taken. Reports. Department heads. Anybody? Not a city attorney.
Another report, Mayor.
Tim, what do you got?
Just really quick, couple things on insurance. Our broker put out our insurance bid to a few different nationwide insurers. A couple of them, we've got a lot of new things going on, 2 new departments, a $7 million pool. So one prospective insurer was really interested but did not submit a bid. So Travelers was the only one who submitted a bid for our business. So we're with Travelers Insurance for 1 more year. Like everything, insurance is going up. as the cost of cars goes up, as the cost of replacing buildings goes up, as Travelers is paying insurance claims in the southeast after floods, and in California, insurance is just going up. So I want to say like our premium went up 18 or 20% or something like that. So.
Well, at least we can still get it, because a lot of nationwide companies are pulling out of Florida and California.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just challenging. I mean, we only had one person submit. So, on the bright side, they did send out someone to re-inspect the roof, re-inspect the building, and double check our insurance claim from this summer. So we don't have an answer on that, but they are. I mean, they did spend money to send an engineer out to relook at our building to see if it would qualify as a claim. So I guess that's one good item from Travelers. So, but that's
I
it.
figured they'd get the money back with the 18% increase. Okay. All right. What else you got, Tim?
That's it.
Anything? That's it? All right. Go around the horn, starting with Kevin.
Just Dan, thank you for stepping up again with the LCPA and for everything, keeping us updated as much as you did while you were there the first time around. Thank you. That's it.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Gene.
First of all, before I forget, because I have a tendency to do that, I don't know how many of you know, but Josh has started a podcast. It's called Thrive Lansing, Kansas. When I found out, and I knew as much about podcasts as I did rocket science, so I had to have my kids walk me through that. And I said, no, if this costs me anything, I'm not going to do it. So, but anyway, they're doing it. It's a good job. It's kind of a informal kind of, here's our thought process of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to get there. And it's another way of communicating to the public what's going on. So, and I know Ken's involved with it too, so good job on that. And the only other thing I'll say is, as we look at this sheet in front of us every week, affordable housing stares at us every time we sit here. And you can't please all the people all the time, but we're either going to grow or we're not. And I'd rather grow than not grow. We're not going to get national chain businesses here. Every time we have somebody come out here and look at it, what's the number one thing they tell you? Rooftops. We hear that all the time. So just want to remind everybody that we've been committed to that and we need to follow through. That's all I have.
All right, Gene. Thanks. Jake?
I just want to say thanks to the volunteers for the BZA. I started on volunteering, and look at me now. So, lots of good opportunities in the city. Yeah, and then go Chiefs, and that's it.
Thanks, Jesse.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people seen the story earlier on Fox 4 about the Limerick Humane Society. I also heard a story this morning on the radio, and there's been numerous posts about them closing their doors. So I don't know what we would do with the animals that we collect through our police department if they do close their doors.
We're having those discussions with them right now. At one point, it almost seemed like they would still receive animals from government agencies.
That's what the posts look like, but conflicting stories are on
Yes,
the news.
there's conflicting stories that I have heard too, and I think they're trying to verify that. I know Steve and I are going to double check on different options if they do close their doors, because I think Leavenworth Animal Control is pretty full too. So.
Well, it's a service nobody knows, but when they go away, we're going to find out how bad we needed them. So
yeah, oh yeah, that's why we've been supporting them from Lansing. Oh yeah, for sure. And go Chiefs.
All right.
All I got there.
The only thing I have is I've received several phone calls and texts and emails from our city people, our residents, and every time I've reached out to Tim or his staff, they've always provided me great answers so that I can give the feedback to the people that are asking the questions. So just a shout out to everybody for working as a team and getting the information out to our citizens and making sure that they understand why we're doing what we're doing. But thank you very much to the staff.
All right. Thanks, Pete. Dan?
Thank you for your volunteering. Appreciate it.
along the housing line. There's a reason why we did the sanitary sewer up to McIntyre Road. And it wasn't just to sit there, it's to be used. So keep that in mind, in that investment we've already done. The LCPA is doing a market survey on their funding stream. So you may be getting some phone calls and stuff of that. Still don't know if the county commissioners is going to do it by a bond issue or do it next year or whatever. They haven't approved anything. Nothing's been submitted. That's it.
All right, thanks, Dan. Carrie?
Mr. Spears, thank you. And Mr. M, I would thank him also. And I have nothing else, Mayor.
All right, thanks, Carrie. Don?
Oh, thank you to our new volunteers, Mr. Peter M., who's not here, and some folks out here.
Chase.
The only thing I want to comment on that really bothered me is this thing with Mr. Root. You know, we've changed our UDO and we've updated our regulations so they'd be clear and concise and whatever over the years. I'm concerned that one resident goes in and he gets an answer. Resident goes in the next month and he gets a different answer from our staff. That kind of bothers me a little bit. We need to look at that. I think we need to look at that. Find out who dropped the ball. Did we drop the ball? They dropped the ball, or whatever. That's just a concern that I got from that. Other than that, I move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Call the roll.
Mr. Gardner.
Yes.
Mr. Kirby.
Yes.
Mr. Kowalski.
Yes.
Mr. Garvey.
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Clemens.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Brungard.
Yes.
Mr. Seneca.
No.
We're adjourned.